Hi everyone, it's Don and I hope you're having a fantastic day. Well, Royal Caribbean ship is having propulsion issues. That's a very popular term these days. And she's going to be 2 full days late getting back to port. And not only that, it's all the way in Japan. We also have Bar Harbor had their vote on whether or not to raise the cap from 1,000 passengers a day to 3,200 passengers a day. The results are in. They're not very overwhelming, but the results are in. We'll see what they do going forward in this case. We also had the unfortunate incident of a gentleman who got off the ship to go to the beach on a shore excursion, and unfortunately had something happen and he passed away. Not a great story there. And then quietly, it seems Carnival Cruise Line is raising their prices for specialty dining oh so quietly in 2025. So the first story is the Spectrum of the Seas, which is sailing from Shanghai to Japan, and it's on a 7-day cruise currently. Well, they're stuck in Yokohama Harbor because they're undergoing propulsion issues and they're unable to leave. In fact, they're going to sit there and wait until the parts are flown in so the repairs can be done on the ship. They haven't gone into any details exactly what's wrong with the ship or what the parts are, etc., but that leaves passengers in a little bit of a lurch because they've announced the cruise ship won't technically now be a 7-day cruise. It's now going to be a 9-day cruise or longer. They won't get back to Shanghai for 2 full days after their supposing end embarkation. So a lot of people are scrambling. If they had to travel home, obviously 2 days, your flights are canceled. And traveling from China is not an easy thing to do quite often. And if you have to stay in China to get hotels and everything, it can be complicated as well. Wish them all the best. The big good news is usually a cruise from Shanghai is usually more of a China cruise where they're traveling from China or Japan themselves. And it's not North America or Europe too much. In fact, when I was on the Spectrum of the Seas, there were literally about 76 North Americans and the rest were all from China. And so the international flights and everything is not going to be, it's not like 3,000 people all of a sudden need new flights. So that's at least the good news there. Bad news for the people getting on the next cruise after that, though. It's been canceled and notifications have been sent out that that cruise is canceled, but it was only a 4-day cruise. Hopefully, again, people aren't traveling too far to get on that cruise and find out that, it's not going at all. So, more propulsion issues. Have we heard that at all this year? I think we've heard it about a half a dozen to a dozen times that ships are having propulsion issues. It seems to be going as ships are getting older and older and traveling more and more cruises with more and more people. It's just, things are going to break down. Next, we have an unfortunate story of a gentleman who was in Boracay, which is an island, basically a resort island. It's set up for cruise ships to come in and hotel guests and beach getaways and things like that. And he got off, went to the beach around 10:30 in the morning. He was on a Holland America cruise ship. And unfortunately, he started to struggle about 30 feet from shore or so. He was with a bunch of other people around. And he's 71 years old, started to struggle, started yelling for help. People rushed out to get him. And then he was immediately rushed to hospital, but unfortunately was pronounced passed away at the time of apparent respiratory problems and drowning secondary is what the report is coming out saying. So I don't know if he was having a heart attack, a stress of some kind, and that caused him to start taking on water in the lungs. It's just one of those things you always want to be aware of everybody in your party around you because something can happen at the last minute. And if you're not paying attention, unfortunate things do happen. It's not a great story, but we really have condolences and thoughts go out to the family and friends of the gentleman who just on a cruise and went to the beach and then something horrible happens. So condolences there. Next, let's talk about Bar Harbor. So Bar Harbor has been in and out of stories and courts, etc. for a couple of years now, since 2022, when they have voted to have a 1,000 passenger per day limit on cruise ships. Well, that goes into full effect next year. Full effect next year. The season is basically over this year, but in the upcoming vote that just happened, they were trying to raise the limit to 3,200. Have kind of like a medium compensation, like good for business, good for the staff, people of the town, etc. Try and have a happy medium where it's not going to affect businesses too much and it's going to be a lesser impact on the town. So they put the vote forward and it failed. It did not pass. So the limit will stay at 1,000, but it wasn't exactly an overwhelming majority. It was out of a voting population of 5,000 people in the town, it had 63 more votes. So almost a 50-50 split in this town on whether or not they should raise the limit. Now, of course, Mr. Sidman, who is a very big advocate of the 1,000 cruise ship passenger limit, says this is a big victory for residents in there. But I have to think to myself, it's pretty much a 50-50 split. Is it really a big win for the residents, or is it just showing that your town is pretty divided over the issue still to this day? And remember, when the vote first went through, they had like 65% back in 22 of people who voted for the cap. And now it's down to 50%. We'll see what might possibly happen in the future when some of the businesses start not hiring as many of the local children who are there for summer jobs and that, because there's no cruise ship passengers now. And but it may pick up. You may get more car vehicles coming into town and things like that. There may be other tourists coming in that were staying away because of the cruise ships. We'll have to wait and see how it all plays out. But to say it's a big win for the citizens when it's kind of like a 50-50 split is kind of a stretch. Kind of a stretch to me. It just shows that, yeah, it's still pretty divided in Bar Harbor right now. And finally, Carnival Cruise Line. Carnival Cruise Line is quietly raising the prices of their specialty dining. It's being seen on some voyages starting already in early 2025. For instance, Fahrenheit 555, the steakhouse, is going to have a new fee. It's going up from $49 a person to $52 per person. And the same can be said for Rudy's. It's going up the same amount, $49 to $52 as well. The biggest real increase is the bonsai teppanyaki, where at lunch it's only going up about $2 from 44 something to 46. But for dinner, it's going from $49.56 up to $57.82. You know, an $8 increase in the price. That's a pretty substantial increase per person for that dining experience. It's still one of my favorite dining experiences to do on any cruise ship. But at one point, people are going to say, what is too expensive? Maybe that's going to be the tipping point for booking those specialty restaurants. But again, everything's up in price, right? Everything across the globe is up in price. Cruising's up in price. Air flights are up in price. My local restaurant's up in price. My grocery store's up in price. My taxes are up in price. Why should the cruise lines be any different? Let me know in the comments down below. Do you think we have had way more cruise ship breakdowns this year than we've ever had in the past? And what do you think could be the reason? Do you think possibly it's just that ships are getting older? However, a lot of the ships breaking down have been brand new ships. The Icon broke down this year. The Spectrum is only 5 years old. It's not like it's a 30-year-old ship. So yeah, but I'm seeing more and more ships breaking down this year than I remember ever happening in the past. Well, I hope you appreciate this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Want to see more tips, more tricks, more travel vlogs from around the world? hit that subscribe button. Until next time, have yourself a safe and a great vacation.